Welcome to the news for all the world. Today's news takes you deep into the heart of the ocean, where the United States Coast Guard continues its relentless fight against international drug trafficking. This report brings you inside one of the most intense and dangerous missions ever captured on camera, a high-stakes pursuit of a suspected narco-smuggling vessel on the open seas. What begins as a routine surveillance mission soon turns into a heart-pounding chase, testing the skill, courage, and determination of the men and women who defend America's maritime borders. In the vast expanse of the eastern Pacific Ocean, where calm waters hide deadly secrets, the Coast Guard's counter-narcotics mission never stops. These operations target the drug cartels that use high-speed boats and semi-submersible vessels to transport tons of illegal narcotics across international waters. The ocean is their highway and every hour counts. On this day, the Coast Guard's maritime patrol aircraft detected something unusual. A faint radar signature appeared miles away, moving fast and low to the water. The experienced crew knew what that meant. It was likely a go-fast boat, one of the most common vessels used by traffickers to outrun law enforcement. As the aircraft approached, the operators zoomed in with their infrared cameras. The vessel's heat signature became clear. It was long, narrow, and moving at incredible speed, slicing through the waves with precision. It carried no visible flags or markings, a sure sign that it wasn't operating legally. The aircraft relayed its coordinates to a nearby Coast Guard cutter, setting off a chain reaction of action and coordination. The cutter immediately changed course and increased speed, launching its pursuit boats and readying its crew for potential confrontation. Every member of the team knew what was at stake. These operations are not only about intercepting drugs, but also about preventing criminal organizations from funding violence, corruption, and human suffering. Each successful interdiction means lives saved and communities protected from the grip of addiction. As the sun dipped low over the horizon, the cutter's radar confirmed visual contact. The chase was on. The suspected smuggling boat began to accelerate, its engines roaring across the waves. The Coast Guard's small pursuit team, equipped with heavy-duty engines and armed personnel, closed in fast. Over the radio, commands were crisp and urgent. The smugglers ignored repeated calls to stop and continued to push their engines to the limit. From the helicopter above, the Coast Guard's airborne gunner gave a final warning over the loudspeaker. When the smugglers still refused to comply, the helicopter fired a warning burst into the water ahead of the vessel, creating massive splashes that sent shockwaves through the air. But the traffickers were desperate. They threw large bales overboard, hoping to lighten their load and destroy the evidence. Each bale contained bricks of cocaine, wrapped in waterproof packaging. As they jettisoned their cargo, the pursuit intensified. The Coast Guard's pilot maneuvered the helicopter directly overhead, while the small boat teams moved in at high speed. The smugglers tried to make sharp turns to evade capture, but the Coast Guard matched every move. Then, with precise aim, the helicopter gunner fired disabling shots at the smuggler's engine. The rounds struck perfectly and the vessel began to slow. The Coast Guard team seized the moment. They approached from both sides, ready for any resistance. Over the roar of the waves, the commanding officer shouted for the suspects to surrender. The smugglers, realizing they could no longer escape, raised their hands in defeat. Within minutes, the boarding team climbed aboard the vessel. The scene was tense but controlled. Every movement was deliberate and professional. The Coast Guard officers secured the crew, checked for weapons, and began their search. Below deck, the team found traces of cocaine residue and hidden compartments. Some bales had been thrown overboard, but others remained. The officers documented everything carefully, each step recorded for evidence. The smell of fuel and salt water mixed in the air as the team began counting and cataloging the narcotics. When all was secured, the suspects were detained, handcuffed, and transferred to the cutter for processing. The mission was far from over, but the hardest part was done. As dawn broke, the cutter turned back toward port. The seized drugs were weighed and tested. The total haul was staggering. Thousands of pounds of cocaine worth tens of millions of dollars on the street. The smugglers' attempt to sneak through international waters had failed, thanks to the swift coordination between air and sea assets. The cutter's crew worked tirelessly, towing the damaged vessel behind them. The traffickers sat in silence, their plans shattered by the professionalism of the Coast Guard. Back on deck, there was no celebration, only focus. For the crew, this was another day in a dangerous mission that never truly ends. The officers reviewed their footage and filed their reports. The evidence would be handed over to federal authorities for prosecution. The seized vessel would either be examined for intelligence or destroyed to prevent its reuse. The success of this mission was another step in the larger fight against global narcotics trafficking. When the cutter finally reached Port Everglades, Florida, the crew prepared for the final stage, the offload. Massive cranes and forklifts stood ready to unload the bales of cocaine. Each package was weighed and lined up on the dock under the watchful eyes of federal agents. News cameras captured the moment, broadcasting the scale of the seizure to the world. The Coast Guard's commanding officer addressed the press, explaining that the drugs seized represented more than just a number. They represented lives protected and communities spared from harm. Behind the scenes, intelligence gathered from this interdiction would be used to track larger criminal networks. Every mission like this builds a clearer picture of how these cartels operate, where their supply lines stretch, and how they adapt to enforcement. The Coast Guard's work is not just about interception, it's about dismantling the system that fuels the illegal trade. This particular operation was part of a joint international effort, involving not only the US Coast Guard but also partner nations across Central and South America. Together, they form a powerful network of surveillance and interdiction that covers thousands of miles of ocean. The crew members, though exhausted, expressed pride in their work. They know the dangers they face: high-speed pursuits in rough seas, armed suspects, and the constant threat of violence make every mission unpredictable, yet their resolve never wavers. The footage captured during this operation shows the courage and precision that define the Coast Guard's counter-narcotics force. From the air crews tracking targets across vast distances to the deckhands hauling evidence from dangerous waters, every member plays a vital role. The story of this mission is not only about confrontation, but also about duty. It's a reminder of how far the Coast Guard goes to protect the country's borders and preserve the safety of international waters. These men and women serve on the front lines of a global fight, one that few people ever see. Every successful seizure means fewer drugs reaching the streets, fewer lives destroyed, and fewer profits for violent cartels. The courage shown in these operations comes from a simple commitment: to serve and protect, no matter the risk. As the final containers of narcotics were secured at the port, the officers reflected on the mission's outcome. The smugglers would face prosecution, the drugs would be destroyed, and the intelligence gathered would strengthen future operations. For the crew, there was little rest. New missions awaited, new threats to confront, and new waters to patrol. The fight against narcotics trafficking continues every day, across every horizon. You have been watching the news for all the world. If you found this report informative and want to see more real stories from around the globe, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue bringing the truth from the front lines of the world's most critical missions. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more updates from the news for all the world.